Hey, this is Jeremy with To The Tabletop, and today we are taking a look at the King Arthur fighter from the Unmatched system of games. Now, King Arthur is a fighter from the Battle of Legends Volume 1 set. King Arthur is paired with his sidekick Merlin, so we'll see as we get into the characters that King Arthur has some things that let him fight really well. Merlin can do a lot of crazy stuff because Merlin is a freaking wizard. King Arthur, yes, that's a lot of text on there for the ability, but King Arthur is a melee fighter. He has a health of 18, which is currently the highest health that anybody has. He has a move of 2, which is typical. Merlin has a health of 7. Merlin is ranged. We can look at King Arthur's ability, and this is where things get interesting with him. When King Arthur attacks, you may boost that attack. Play the boost card face down along with your attack card. The second half of it here being the bit that is really interesting. If your opponent cancels the effects on your attack card, the boost is discarded without effect. Other players can use like feints or other cards that basically cancel King Arthur's ability. Let's go ahead and take a look at King Arthur's deck. One thing you're going to see as we go through here, Arthur has a lot of one-off cards. Now it's going to be cards that only have one copy in the deck. I think he has like 7 one-offs. Now usually the type of characters that tend to get a lot of those one-offs are going to be like Bruce Lee or Sinbad, who have one card that there's variations of it with the Voyages and the Jeet Kune Do cards. But with Arthur, it's just a bunch of one copies of random different cards in there. I'm also going to pay a little bit more attention to boost values on this because they are much more relevant to Arthur. Let's go ahead and go through all these. We're going to start off with Excalibur. That is an attack of 6 with no text on it. Yeah, because a 6 attack doesn't need text. This is a great card. Is there anything bad about Excalibur? Well, there's one copy of it. Ooh, one copy. That is kind of weak sauce there. We'll get into Excalibur here in a bit with another card that interacts with Excalibur. We're going to have Noble Sacrifice. We have 3 copies of Noble Sacrifice. During combat, you may boost this attack. This is an addition to any boost from King Arthur's special ability. You're like, wow, I could boost this card twice. I could play it down, stick another card with it, and boost it, and then during combat, I can boost it again. And you're looking at that like this is a 2, but this could turn into an 8. Whoa, that would be crazy. Well, the only cards with a boost value of 3 in Arthur's deck are going to be these 4 cards. So if you are going to turn a Noble Sacrifice into an 8, you've got to burn 2 of these other ones to do that. Most of the time, you're just going to be pairing this with some 2s and turning it into a 6, which is all right, but it's going to take you 3 cards to get that 6 or 7 or 8. And this thing could, depending on what's in your hand, could be all the way down to like a 4, which 3 cards to get a 4 is pretty lousy. So this is not as powerful as it seems. Really, with this boost value of 3, this card is almost better used, or actually may be better used as boost fodder for other attacks. Okay, we have the 8 of Morgana. This is another one-off card here. It's an attack of 4. After combat, you draw 2 cards. Okay, we get to the first of Arthur's schemes. The Lady of the Lake. Search your deck and discard pile for the Excalibur card. Add it to your hand. If you searched your deck, shuffle it. Okay, so Lady of the Lake interacts with Excalibur. Lady of the Lake gives you Excalibur. Well, thematically, this makes a ton of sense. Ideally, you want to get Excalibur first, play Excalibur, use Lady of the Lake to get Excalibur back, and then use it a second time. If Lady of the Lake comes in really early in your deck and Excalibur is really late in your deck, well then that kind of sucks because you're only going to be using Excalibur once. And once again, one copy of Lady of the Lake, so it's another one-off card here in Arthur's deck. Divine Intervention. There are 2 copies of this. This is a versatile of 3. Move King Arthur up to 5 spaces. You don't have to win combat to do this one, so that's kind of nice. It makes 3 is a pretty decent defense, especially when it's letting you move away 5 spaces. This could be alright as an attack. If you paired a boost with it, you could move that up to something pretty good. And the Holy Grail, another one-off card. This is a defense of 1, which sounds like, whoa. If King Arthur has 4 or less health, but is not defeated, set his health to 8. Now this one you want to time at the right spot. You want to use this wherein it will move Arthur down to 4 or less health. But you got to time it right, because if Arthur goes down to 0, this doesn't kick in and heal him. So you got to do this at the right time. So we'll see here that these initial attack cards here, Noble Sacrifice and Excalibur, are all boosts of 3s. Arthur's other cards are all boosts of 2. Now we're going to get into Merlin's cards. Aid the Chosen One. Guess what? It's another one-off card here. And this is an attack of 4. If you won the combat, draw 2 cards. And as we get to Aid the Chosen One, we see this is also a boost of 2. All of Merlin's cards are going to have a boost of 2. It's not an amazing effect. It's an attack of 4 for a ranged character, which is pretty good. Bewilderment. Merlin has 2 copies of this. This is a defense of 0. What? A defense of 0? Yeah, well, hold on here. During combat, prevent all damage. After combat, you may place Merlin in any space. The other card effects still happen in there. You're just stopping Merlin from taking any damage. One thing to point out on this card, this is a during combat and not an immediately, which means if they were to attack Merlin with a feint, that would prevent the prevent all damage from kicking in, because that opponent's immediate would kick in first. Command the Storms. Okay, this thing, it's a scheme. Move each fighter up to 3 spaces. This includes opposing fighters. This card be crazy. Okay, this just like lets you just rearrange the board. You could use this to set up a second action attack from either Merlin or Arthur. You could use it to set up a pin. You could use it defensively to get out of a pin, or to just get yourself into better footing. You've got 2 copies of it, so it can be done twice, but this is a pretty crazy strong card. And probably as far as movement effects go, this is probably the card with the strongest movement effects, being able to move every fighter on the board up to 3 spaces. Restless Spirits. Here's another one-off card, guys. Wow, all these one-off cards. Choose any space in Merlin's zone. Deal 2 damage to each opposing fighter in that space and in one adjacent space. If at least one fighter is defeated this way, draw a card. So this is just auto damage. Best if you can play it when you got a lot of people clustered together in Merlin's zone. You can use it to just wipe out a bunch of those annoying little 1 health sidekicks. Prophecy. This is another Merlin scheme and another one-off card. Oh, these one-off cards in this deck. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Add 2 of them to your hand and put the other 2 back on top of your deck in any order, so you know what the next 2 cards that will be coming will be. This can be good for you here, give you a little bit of knowledge of what's coming. Now we are getting into the any cards, which are all going to be common cards of sort. This is going to be Swift Strike, an attack of 3, move your fighter up to 4 spaces. This is going to be the only any that has a boost value of 2. Everything after this has boost values of 1. This can be used with Arthur to have him attack and then move out back so he's not adjacent. You could also use this to get Merlin completely out of a zone after an attack. You could also use it to get Merlin or Arthur in a position to attack someone different for a second action attack. You have 3 copies of Skirmish. We're all familiar with this card. Versatile 4. After combat, if you won the combat, choose one of the fighters in the combat and move them up to 2 spaces. And you gotta remember, you can also pair a boost attack with Arthur on any of these any's here. So you could potentially move that skirmish up a bit if you're willing to put some other cards with it. Momentous Shift. Versatile 3. If your fighter started this turn in a different space, this card's value is 5 instead. So a couple things to point out on this Momentous Shift. Obviously, if you were to boost with this, you could move it from that 5 up to a 7 or 8 there. Also interesting is Merlin, and I believe that Merlin is the only ranged character that has access to a Momentous Shift. So that can be kind of crazy, because what is normally done with the Momentous Shift, since it's mainly melee characters that have these, they have to move up on the first action and then hit with a second action and then be adjacent. Merlin can get this bonus of the 5 but not be adjacent. He can move into someone's zone and then attack them with this and get the 5. He could be adjacent, use a first action to back away but stay in the zone and then still hit them with the 5 on the Momentous Shift. Opens up a lot of possibilities with a ranged fighter having access to the Momentous Shift. We of course have our 3 feints. You know, feint, versatile of 2, immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. And lastly, regroup, a versatile of 1. After combat, draw 1 card. If you won the combat, draw 2 cards instead. One thing we need to talk a little bit more about is Arthur's ability. Okay, and that's because Arthur, his ability can be canceled, which means that when you say, I'm going to attack and I'm going to boost my attack, your opponent knows that you're boosting, and so they have a little bit of a chance there to decide if they are going to, if they have a feint in their hand, they have a little bit of a chance to cancel that. Cards that are boosted are going to have more of a chance of drawing a feint. When do you want to boost and when do you not want to? Well, there's a couple different arguments there. One argument is that people are going to boost a lot on cards like this that you don't mind seeing get feinted. Feint into an Excalibur, you know, if you're boosting with that, well, they're still taking 4 damage. To get some of these others, you know, like Divine Intervention, you may be looking to use that, move him 5 spaces afterwards. You may be on a skirmish, definitely on a Momentous Shift with Arthur, you would be looking to get those extra effects on there, and you don't necessarily want those to get canceled. But then if you never boost on the cards that have effects, then, well, they're going to know that if you're not boosting, that, you know, what cards are coming there. When the boost is canceled, the boost card is discarded with that effect, so you're totally losing that card if they do it there. So there's a lot of different ideas on there. Sometimes you can use some of these, particularly regroups, as boosts to try to just weed out a feint, throw that with something else. You know, you're not getting much of a boost bonus on it if it does get past a feint, but it's a card that you're willing to lose. Another thing that will happen is, just because of all of the crazy effects cards that he has and because of some of that scheme damage that he's got available, a lot of players will try to take out Merlin early, which can work for you, but if Merlin is taken out too early, you're just leaving all these Merlin cards that are just going to be boost fodder. And of course, all of Merlin's cards have a boost of 2, which is not the strongest in the deck, but that's a solid boost value. You don't have that many feints. Okay, maybe Bigfoot, but no one else has enough cancel effects to be able to deal with that many boosts. So if Merlin gets taken out early in the game, just start boosting like every attack you do with Merlin cards. But basically, just because of the makeup of his deck, particularly only having the 1 copy of Excalibur in there, you can use it twice, but it's got to come in the right order. And then Noble Sacrifice really not being as great as it seems, and the fact that his special ability can be straight up canceled by card effect does make Arthur a little bit difficult to work with there. He can be kind of a difficult one to go with. He's not as weak as some of the other weak fighters on there, and he can still do really well. That 18 health really does help him out a lot, because that is a lot to dig through. There's some fighters that have trouble digging through 18 health, and you get through fighters that don't have a lot of feints, like Invisible Man, Little Red, who has only 2 cards that are feint likes, and Deadpool, who has pretty much just the 2 feints. It's a lot harder to deal with all of those boosts when you can't cancel the effects and get rid of all those boosts that are on there. So he has some good matchups in there, but you know, it can still be hard to do well with Arthur at times. So what did you think of this video? Do you have anything else that you want to say about Arthur? Well, you can leave those thoughts down in the comments. You can give this video a thumbs up and a like, and you can subscribe to my channel and take a look at all the other videos that I have on there, the other fighter reviews, the miscellaneous stuff, and everything we have from the recent tournament, so you can see more Unmatched. I'm Jeremy with To The Tabletop, and we'll see you around next time.